Hi, this is Mrs. Ellison, and I am going to work through the Chapter 4 practice test for Algebra 1. Number 1 says, temperature changes throughout the hours of a day. Early in the morning, temperature increases slowly. At noon, the temperature rises sharply. During the afternoon, the temperature stays the same for several hours. As night falls, the temperature decreases slightly. Choose the graph that best represents this situation. My best suggestion here is to kind of graph it yourself. Early in the morning, temperature increases slowly. So if we start at the beginning, temperature will increase a little bit, and then it rises sharply, so it will have a much steeper increase. And then during the afternoon, it stays the same for several hours, so that's a horizontal section. And then night falls, it decreases slightly, so that would be a downward portion. The only graph that looks like this is graph D, which we can't really see. I'll scoot it up to show you. Can see. It sort of looks a little bit like ours there. Okay, so number 1 is D. Number 2, give the domain and range of the relation. Remember, domain is the set of x values. So these would be the numbers that would go in the domain. And then the range is the y values. So these would be the numbers that go in the range. And generally they need to be in order from smallest to largest. So that is going to be this set here, set A. Number 3 says to give the domain and range of this relation. This is a continuous graph, and so it needs to be written a little differently. It will be written as an inequality. As you can see, all of these options are written as inequalities. So the domain is the x values. We need to determine what the lowest x value is and what the highest x value is. And if we look at this graph, it looks like our lowest x value is right here, and that would be 1. And the highest x value is up here, and that is 6. So we would put x between those numbers and less than or equal to, since those are closed dots. There's actually only one answer choice that offers that, and that is choice B. And if you look at the range, we need to look also at what the highest and lowest y values are. And those then fall between, there's the high, and it looks like down here is the low. So those would fall between 1 and 7. So this would be the correct answer. Number 3 is B. Number 4 is a similar question. Give the domain and range of the relation and tell whether the relation is a function. Well, the domain is going to be between -3 and +3. The range will be between -2 and +2. So let's see, that takes out option B, that takes out option D, but A and B are still, or A and C, I'm sorry, are still possible options. So we have to determine whether this relation is a function or not. And since we have a graph, we can use the vertical line test. And all we have to do is draw a vertical line anywhere on the graph. If it hits that graph in more than one place, it fails the vertical line test, and it is not a function. So number 4 is A. Number 5 says to determine a relationship between the x and y values and write an equation. Remember, that means we need to figure out how we get from each x to the corresponding y value. So how can we get from 1 to 4, from 2 to 5, from 3 to 6, from 4 to 7? And it has to be the same way each time. We talked in class about how this is increasing by 1. So that would be the coefficient of x, +1. But this isn't quite enough because 1 times 1 is 1. We need 3 more to get to 4. 1 times 2 is 2. We need 3 more to get to 5. Each time we'll need 3 more to get to the target number here in the table. So this would be 1x plus 3, and that's option C. Number 6, identify the independent and dependent variables in the situation. So we have to decide which one depends on the other. So it says the amount of electricity used for air conditioning in homes increases as the outside temperature increases. So which one of these is driving the other and which one depends on the other? Does the amount of electricity we use depend on the outside temperature, or does the outside temperature depend on the amount of electricity we use? I don't think we have that much control over the weather. The amount of electricity depends on the temperature outside. And since it depends, this is the dV, and this would be then the IV. So that's option A. Number 7 says to identify the table that best matches the graph below. Well, it looks like our domain values for A, B, and C anyway are -3, -1, 1, and 3. So let's go ahead and kind of figure out what those points are here on the graph. It looks to me like -3 is up here at maybe 9. 1 is up here at, or -1 is over here at 1. +1 is up here also at 1. And +3, oops, that's a little slanty, sorry. +3 will be up here also at 9. So that looks then like option B. So 7 is B. Number 8. Brian has 64 flowers for a big party decoration. In addition, he is planning to buy some flower arrangements that have 18 flowers each. All of the arrangements cost the same. Brian is not yet sure about the number of flower arrangements he wants to buy, but he has enough money to buy up to 5 of them. Write a function to describe how many flowers he can buy. Okay. Let x represent the number of flower arrangements he buys, and find a reasonable domain and range for the function. Okay, there are 18, he has 64 flowers. And if he buys x flower arrangements, there are 18 flowers in each of those. So f of x equals 64 plus 18x. That takes out options C and D. And he has enough money to buy up to 5 of them, so a reasonable domain would be he could buy 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but not 6. He won't have enough. So that is option B. 8 is B. Number 9, graph -2x plus 4y equals 4 for the domain D equals -8, -4, 0, 4, and 8. If we make ourselves a little table here, we can plug in those x values, -8, -4, 0, 4, 8. Since a domain was specified, this will be a discrete graph. We are not going to connect our dots because we were only given those 4 points. Option A is immediately then out of the question. So we need to plug each of these into -2x plus 4y equals 4. My best suggestion for you here is to go ahead and move your x over to the other side, plus 2x. 4y equals 2x plus 4. And then divide each term by 4. Solving for y here. So y equals 1/2 x plus 1. So half of -8 is -4 plus 1 is -3. Half of -4 is -2 plus 1 is -1. Half of 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. Half of 4 is 2 plus 1 is 3. And half of 8 is 4 plus 1 is 5. So -8, -3, -4, -1, 0, 1, 4, 3, and 8, 5. That's going to be option C here. Number 10, graph the function y equals 2x minus 1. We were not given a domain, so we will just choose some x values that we like. The ones I usually pick are -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And we have y equals 2x minus 1. So 2 times -2 is -4, minus another 1 is -5. 2 times -1 is -2, minus another 1 is -3. 2 times 0 is 0, minus 1 is -1. 2 times 1 is 2, minus 1 is 1. And 2 times 2 is 4, minus 1 is 3. Now it might help to just kind of choose a graph here, any graph, and just draw these points onto it so we can get an idea of what it should look like. -2, -5 is down here. -1, -3 is here, and it looks like we might have gotten lucky and chosen the correct one to begin with. 1, 1, and 2, 3, and it looks like C is the winner on number 10. Number 11, graph the function y equals -x squared minus 2. Again, we can make ourselves a table here. I'm going to leave a space in the middle to do a little bit of work this time so we can write down some steps in the middle. So we have -x squared minus 2. And we'll choose those same values, the -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, and see if that gets us the shape we expect to see. And since we have an x squared here in the problem, that looks like it should be a quadratic. And if you recall, those are U-shaped. So all of these do look reasonable. -x squared, that'll be negative, and then we'll plug in -2. Don't forget your parentheses because otherwise it'll be messed up. -2 squared is +4, but we want the opposite of that. So -4 minus 2 is -6. -1 squared minus 2, this would be +1, but we want the opposite. So this is -1 minus 2 more is -3. -0 squared minus 2, that will be just -2. And then -1 squared minus 2, this will be +1, but this will make it negative. -1 minus 2 more is -3. And then the opposite of 2 squared minus 2, this will be +4. So that's a -4 minus 2 more is -6. So let's see, -2, -6 is down here, -1, -3, 0, -2, 1, -3, and 2, -6. This is what we need our graph to look like, and that means that option D is our best choice. 11 then is D. Number 12 says to use the graph of the function f of x equals 2x plus 2 to find the value of y when x equals 2. So this is what we need to find. Where does x equal 2? And that's here. We'll draw a line up to our graph that hits it here, and then over to the y-axis, it looks like y then equals 6. So the answer to 12 is C. Number 13, describe the correlation illustrated by the scatter plot. This looks like we could draw a trend line in here with a generally increasing slope or increasing trend. That's going to be a positive correlation, so 13 is B. Number 14 says to graph a scatter plot using the given data. Well, it would help if this data were arranged numerically. That would be probably easier to tell what we're doing. But it isn't impossible to do it from here. Again, my best idea is to kind of graph it yourself and see what it should look like. So 3, 4.5. So A is out. Let's see, that one's over here on C. Is it on B? 3, 4.5 is on B, and 3, 4.5 is on D. Okay, so we have eliminated answer choice A just by this one point, and we'll just mark it out so we know we've done it. 6, 6.5 appears to be on C. Let's see if 6, 6.5 is on the others. 6, 6.5 is here on B. 6, 6.5 is here on D. Let's see. Kind of as you go through this and figure out what other points are there, you'll notice that C appears to be missing this point here. The 2, 3.5 is not on C. And this one has 2 values for 8, which don't exist in the table. There's only 1. So the best answer choice here would be choice D. Now I'm going to end this video here, and we'll see you in part 2. Thank you.